This morning, I woke up around. I had been laying in bed for a while, but I didn't actually start opening my eyes until about, I'd say, 8:20 to 8:30. And one of the first things that I noticed is that um, I saw a message from Henrico, Virginia that came through at 8:51 a.m. Visitor number 8326 on my website. As I was I was starting to notice that I was receiving a vision, and the first thing that I saw was an 1133, except for the 11 and the 33. The 11 was just to the left and stacked. It was like the 1133 was situated like 11 over 33, except for the 33 was slightly staggered to the right below the 11. It was like a fraction without the fraction bar. And immediately adjacent to the right of the 33 on the bottom, there was some sort of a border. I kept having this sense of like a wall. It was like a border wall that was touching the 33. It went from north to south, and it ended up around where Texas would be, this border. And my consciousness started to veer over to the west, the left. And I noticed greenery. And as I started to pan to the west and then to the north, I noticed that there were like these hills covered in greenery, and all of a sudden I saw the Hollywood sign. And I could see the Hollywood sign, and my consciousness went back to the 1133, and it gave me this feeling of remember what happened to Hollywood. And I started feeling like this rumbling. There were vibrations, and I heard this song. It's a gospel song. I believe that it's my season. I believe that it's my season. I believe that it's my time. It's my time. And I can feel it. I can feel it really stood out. Breakthroughs in the room. Anticipating. And the anticipating like really stood out. And then God's getting ready to move. And the name of the song is It's Gonna Be Big. That part like really stood out to me, especially since I was feeling this vibration, rumblings, almost like tremors. before something big that was going to happen. It's going to be big. Remember what happened to Hollywood? I didn't see, knowing what just happened to Hollywood, it's notable that I didn't see any fires, but I was feeling rumbling. So it was really it seemed to be pushing me more towards the future and not reminding me of the fires, but just disaster in general. Some sort of rumbling happening that was going to be big. And as I started to pan more over to the east, that feeling of like a dividing line. Once again, except for this time, I was shown the St. Louis Arch. And that St. Louis Arch, the curve of it really seemed to stand out in my mind. That arch, or like an arc type of a shape. Like the same shape, it's kind of repeated, that you see around where Houston, Galveston is in Texas, and I was drawn to that section too. The Arch of St. Louis, that stands for really the gateway to the West, is what they call it. And it is located where the Mississippi River is. And then I realized that the Mississippi River is sort of a border dividing line. And my attention was drawn to the arc shape of Houston again. And I hear that phrase, Houston, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. And I was drawn to the border between Texas and Mexico. And then my consciousness went back to what I saw at the beginning of the vision, where I saw the 33 up against this line that went from north to south. And I realized that that line, it was like pointing to the the United States Canadian border, and it connected all the way to the United States and Mexican border. The Houston, we have a problem. Then I heard the song Uninvited. I could hear it. Dun, 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 dun. Like any hot-blooded woman, I've always wanted an object to crave. But you're not allowed. You're uninvited. And uninvited really stood out to me. The song is called Uninvited. And she says, an unfortunate slight. And then I hear this song, a gospel song that's called, where she says, by his stripes we're healed, and in Jesus' name. And I don't remember the rest of it, but that's what I heard. By his stripes we're healed, and in Jesus' name. And then I heard the song, Si Fili Siwe. Si Fili Siwe. And I looked that up, and it is a it is a phrase from a region in South Africa. It is a phrase from a language, Ndebele, a region in South Africa. So as I'm scanning up and down, and I'm realizing that song Uninvited, like any hot-blooded woman, okay? So we get the word blood, hot-blooded, okay? And and the other song, By His Stripes We're Healed. The stripes on our American flag are red, and hot blood is red. And like any hot-blooded woman, so I've always wanted an object to crave. But you're not allowed, you're uninvited. I got this feeling of like there were things that this woman could benefit from, but also this man or this other individual, there were things that they were benefiting from this hot-blooded woman, but this man, it was a masculine energy, decided that he was going to forcefully take more than what was fair. And she stood her ground and said that, yes, I do enjoy the things that we trade, that we share, that I receive from you, but I'm not going to allow you to take too much. And the word uninvited made me think of that she was invaded, and she was forced to stand her ground. And I get this sense of like someone filing their nails, sharpening their claws, their talons. And she says, how unfortunate, an unfortunate slight. And I realized that the Canadian border, compared to the United States, has more of a feminine type of an aspect, is what I'm feeling. In the relationship between the United States and Canada, Canada comes across more feminine, softer, more sensitive, and the United States energy that I'm feeling in this vision is more dominant and aggressive type of an energy. And I'm also being drawn to a similar situation in Mexico, where Mexico benefits from trade with the United States, but the United States definitely benefits from this trade with Mexico as well. I get this sense of the United States asserting itself over the Canadian border and asserting itself over the Mexican border, while trying to close access to Mexicans coming in and Canadians coming in, while having free roam, almost like an invasion. I get the sense of an invasion, an attempt to conquer, to expand the United States using some sort of military force, and I see as an extension, continuation of this vision. I was reminded of a vision that I had had before with the Mississippi River providing a route for aircraft carriers and jets flying north and south from up towards Canada and down into the Gulf of Mexico, a strategic area to defend both the west and the eastern side of the United States. And to the right of this Mississippi River, I saw these waves emanating from the middle of the United States. I'm getting a sense of somewhere around Kentucky, Illinois-ish. These waves, almost they look like sound waves. I get the sense of like a low frequency type of a wave that causes a vibration. And it reminded me of what I heard earlier about it's going to be big, and the sense of rumbling that are occurring around the same time of some sort of a breakthrough, a big breakthrough. Acts of God that are happening on both the east and the west. The west coast, and also from the east coast all the way up and down into Canada, down into the Gulf of Mexico. Vibrations. Something about 931, the number 931, the New Madrid fault came to my attention. Something about seismic activity. There were the waves that were generated from the middle of the eastern United States around Kentucky, Illinois area, traveling from that point south into the Gulf of Mexico, touching Florida, that whole Gulf states, all the Gulf states, all the way up the eastern seaboard and up into Canada. These waves. By his stripes we're healed. Around 9:25 this morning, I also heard a very loud roar, like a constant roar. It sounded like jets, but it didn't really seem to be moving forward. It was just a very sustained roar, loud, vibrated the house around 9:25 this morning. So some key dates for a lot of this activity that I'm sensing is between April 20th and May 5th. A peak of seismic activities, possible military activity, and defending borders, creation of borders, dividing the West from the South, uh, defending borders between the United States and Canada, defending borders between the United States and Mexico. I'm seeing Florida being really important. But one thing that really stands out is this whole the bend, the bend from Florida and the whole Big Bend from Florida all the way to Texas, Houston, Texas, Galveston, all the way down to Mexico. The Big Bend that creates the border of the Gulf of Mexico, that whole area of the United States, very important because the Mississippi River Delta connects to the Gulf of Mexico there. And the border of Texas, the border of Mexico, the borders of Florida Peninsula, all of that is really important. And also, I'm seeing something about Baja California, that whole area as well. Possibly San Diego, around in the Tijuana area. Something really active there concerning the border. And that's all I have.